You know what? I really wanted to share this story in a more put together way, like as Jegaysus, but I think the time is good and my hair is up. Let's just do this. It's a candid story. Stick around. It's interesting if you think. I think it is. My grandmother, who is 100% black, mind you, moved to LA in somewhere in the 50s and 60s. She was very much passing in any terms of the words, and she was married to a doctor who was my dad's adoptive father. So she very much got a lot of benefit from being white in these 50s and 60s society. Funny enough, my dad comes along and he's much darker than her, so he lied and told people he was Hawaiian. Because why not? That's not black. Here's where the story gets kind of tragic. So my grandmother paid to have my great-grandmother moved back into the country to live in their house. My great-grandmother was dark, so she was hired as the maid for the family. Of course, all to keep up with the appeal of my grandma being a white woman and this being a happy white family. So my dad grew up treating this woman as just the maid. They never told him. You can only imagine an adolescent boy being like, clean this, do that, whatever. I wasn't there, but that's pretty much what it was. My great-grandma died when my dad was about 13, and it's then that he found out that this whole time the help was actually his grandma. Tragic. He never got to have a connection with his grandma. He never got to share stories, learn about his past, learn about his history, because she was sworn to silence and pretending, and he was never told that was his lineage, that was his blood. And he's felt guilty about that his entire life, and it was all to keep up appearances of being white passing. It's sad. There's a lot of history here, and I think that's what people keep forgetting in this conversation overall. Not you, but people. This comes off the heels of the video where I was talking about my grandmother being white passing, so stick around to see my parents, I guess, and how she looked. I'd first like to start off by saying that my mom's the only one on this app, so like this is gonna be super embarrassing for her, but like, hi mom! Alright, here it is, the parents reveal! Here's me, my beautiful mother. Yeah, this is us going to see Hamilton. This is my mom, brother, and myself. My brother's pretty light right here, but sometimes it gets darker. This is my dad and my uncle, his half-brother, playing around at Six Flags, acting like they're in jail. My youngest uncle is like 5 years younger than me. That's a whole different story. Here's my dad posing with his biological father in the middle, and then his half-brother on the right, who is Nicaraguan. Last but also not least is my beautiful grandmother, Gena. This is a photo of her from back in the day, and it's so gorgeous. I look at this and I don't see a white woman. I don't know how she was white passing back then. I see somebody who's very ethnic, but maybe I guess not traditionally black, or what people in the 50s and 60s would assume was black. So white it was. She got it. Hey Nina, thanks to your suggestion, we did it. For those of you following along or new here, we're talking about how my grandmother was white passing back in the 60s, and that's how she built her life. And I showed this picture during the story showing how she looked, and we're all like, all the black people are like, she looks pretty black to me. So we wanted to see what they were seeing. What happens if we colorize it? I'm gonna tag the creator who helped with this project, and thank you again so much. Now introducing into the modern era, my grandma Gena in full color. What do we think? White passing? I still see a black woman. Can we stop doing this now, please? This was in a thread where I said, I identify as mixed because that's what I am, with a black grandparent and a half-black father. Whether or not my skin comes out melanated, I still consider myself mixed. That is my experience as a biracial person, and the way I operate in the world is through a lens, and it's easier to explain to people. When they look at me kind of funny and try to place me, it's just like, oh, I'm mixed, and they go, okay, I get it. For me to say that I'm white, or for me to say that I'm black, is taking away both parts of those. I would never consider myself either because, again, I'm somewhere in between. And for you to say, oh, well, you don't look black, well, it doesn't affect my DNA. It doesn't affect the 25% Nigerian I carry in my blood. It doesn't affect the way that my grandmother had to operate in the 60s. It doesn't affect the way that my dad gets racially profiled and pulled over as a black man. It affects my worldview, how I am made.